Hello everyone. Welcome to our tutorial on the basics of Python lists. A couple quick notes before we get started. Python lists are similar to arrays in other languages. However, note that the Python NumPy module arrays are slightly different than the normal Python lists. Lists in Python can take different types and are created with square brackets. Now we have a whole bunch of examples to get through, so I've gone ahead and created our code samples ahead of time so we can get through our examples a little bit more quickly. So let's jump right in. To create a list in Python, you just create a variable name. Here we have L1, which stands for list 1, the equal sign, and then we have square brackets, and inside the square brackets we have all of our list elements. And as we mentioned, there's no need to declare a list type, such as int, float, or string, especially since you can put different types within a list in Python. So here we have a string, an int, a float, another string, and a tuple, and a dictionary. Okay, so that's how you create a list in Python. To access elements of a list, we're just going to use a print statement to display all of our examples. Here we have 3 different ways to access the elements of list 1. Using the subscript or index square brackets. So here we have L1, and this will access the 0 element of the list, which is the first element, so that should access the string. And then this syntax here will actually access an element of the list and then an element of the list. So this should actually access the first part of element 4. So here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This syntax with the 4 in square brackets and the 0 in square brackets is going to access this tuple here. And then the 0 element says what part of that tuple do you want to access, so that will access the 5. And then we have a way to access part of this dictionary here within our list, and that will, as you can see, access 5, which here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5th element of the list. And then it will access the value for California, which will be San Diego. So this print should print out string for this access syntax. And then it should print out 5 for this tuple for this access syntax. And then it should print out here we have the key and the value for the dictionary. It should print out the value, San Diego, for this syntax. So let's go ahead and select this and run it, and we should get string 5 San Diego. Okay, that's what we got. We're good to go. For our next couple examples, we're going to show you how to append elements to a list and extend a list. And these are somewhat similar, but they're slightly different. And when we display the outcome of the append and the extend, you'll see that there is a slight difference. So for the append, here we have a very small list, list 2, with values 1 and 2, and we want to append values 3 and 4. Now if we select this and run it, you can see that in this case we have appended this smaller list to this larger list, and it's actually inside this list. Okay, so we have a list inside of a list. Now if we use the extend example, we have the same values, same lists, and the only difference in this case for the extend is we're using extend instead of append. And we print this out, you'll see that we get this list with values 1 and 2 and this list with values 3 and 4 all put into the same list. Now if you want to insert an item into a list, one way to do this is to use the insert. So here we have our list, list 4 with eggs and toast. Then we reference our list, dot insert, and inside the parentheses we put the index of where we want to insert our element, and then we put the element we want to insert. So if we select this and run it, we should get eggs, toast, and coffee. And remember that the 2 refers to the index of the list where eggs is 0, toast is 1, and 2 would come at the end. So let's display our list, and we get eggs, toast, and coffee. Now let's go over a few ways that you can remove elements from a list. So here we have our list 5 with some precious stones. We have sapphire, diamond, emerald, ruby, topaz. And we have 3 different ways to remove elements from this list. So in this first way, we've referenced our list. Then we use a dot to access the remove. And then in parens, we access the list again, and then we reference the index of the element we want to remove. So in this case, this should remove element 0, which is sapphire. Next, we have another way to remove an element. We reference the list, and again, we use the remove, but in this case, we put ruby as the specific element we want to remove, and that should remove the ruby from the list. And then finally, we use the del, which stands for delete, I believe. Then we reference the list, and then we reference the index of the element we want to remove. So let's go ahead and print this out and see what we get, and then we'll explain it a little bit further. Okay, so you can see that for this first way that we explained, which is here, it removed element 0, which is sapphire, and then it just left diamond, emerald, ruby, topaz, and that's what we have displayed. This next remove removed just the ruby, and since we already removed the sapphire, now we have left diamond, emerald, topaz. And then this last way that we used to remove an element with the del referenced a new index 0. You can see here, this was the new index 0 in the list, diamond. So the only thing left was emerald and topaz. To change an element in a list, you can reference your list and then the index of the item you want to change, and then you can assign a new value. So here we have list 6 with some food items, chicken wings, salad, and ranch. Let's just say this is what we want to have for lunch. But then at the last minute, we decide we want to change the dressing on our salad. So here we have index 2. Remember, this is 0, 1, 2. So this should change the ranch to blue cheese. Let's go ahead and select this and run it, and we should get chicken wings, salad, and blue cheese. And that's what we get. Good to go. Next, let's show you how to access a slice of a list. So here we have a list with some planets, and let's go ahead and count these. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 planets in our list. And remember that this starts at index 0. So in this case, let's just say we want to take a slice of the first 3 planets, Mercury, Venus, and Earth. To take the slice, we use the square brackets notation, start at index 0, and then a colon, and then the second number actually goes up 2, but not including that element. So this should include elements 0, 1, 2, and then up to 3, but not including 3, so it falls back onto the Earth, and just include Mercury, Venus, and Earth. Now let's go ahead and run this. And we get Mercury, Venus, and Earth. Next up, one way to combine lists is to simply concatenate the lists. So here we have list 8 and list 9. We have oranges and apples in one list, and nectarines and a pineapple in the other. Then we've created a new variable, list 10, which should be the combination of list 8 and 9. Let's go ahead and select this and run it, and we get the 2 combined lists together into one list here, with oranges, apples, nectarines, pineapple. Okay, now let's say that you wanted to put a list inside of another list. Well, one way you could do this is to define your lists. So here we have list 11 and 12 with some colors. In list 1 we have blue and green, and another we have orange and red. Then we created a new list variable, list 13, and inside of a list we put the list 11 and 12. So now let's select this, and notice the square brackets here for our new list 13. Let's go ahead and run this, and now you can see inside of a larger list we have 2 smaller lists here. Next up, let's show you how to access elements inside of a list that's inside of another list. So in this case, we have list 14, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lists inside of a larger list, with 2 elements inside each smaller list inside the larger list. Okay? Now, when you want to access the elements of these lists, you use the square brackets syntax, you reference the list, and then each square bracket will kind of drill down into the list. So this first 2 should access list index 2, and this is list 0, this would be list 1, and this would be list 2. Okay, so this 2 here should access list 2 in the larger list, 0, 1, 2, and then this 1 should access index 1 in that list. So here we have 0, 1, 2, and then the 1, this is index 0, and this is index 1. So this syntax right here should access number 6. Now let's go ahead and run this, and we should get back 6. And that's what we get. We're good to go. Now you can take this a little bit further. you can actually add another square bracket to access the letter of that word. So let's access the S of the 6. So let's put in square brackets and put in 0. Now again, just to make sure this really sinks in, so we have index 2 within the larger list. This is 0, 1, 2, so it's going to go here. And then 1 of that index, this is 0, this is 1, and then 0 of this index, which is just the S. The I would be 1, the X would be 2, but it's asking for the 0, so this syntax right here should access the S. Now let's go ahead and select this and run it, and we should just get back S. And we do. Next up, let's show you how to sort a list. So here we have list 15 with the numbers 1 through 10 out of order. And in this case, we're just going to sort the list in place. So we access the list, use the dot to access the sort method or function. And then when we reprint that list, it should now be in order, 1 through 10. Let's select it and run it. And we get 1 through 10. That's good. Now there's another sort function that's similar but slightly different. And with the sorted method, you can show a list as sorted if you just use the print to display it, or you can return a new sorted list. So in this case, let's just create a new list and return list 16 as sorted. So here we have the letters A, B, C, D, and E out of order. We've created a new list, and then inside of sorted, we've put that list 16, and now let's print out the new sorted list. So this should be A, B, C, D, E instead of this out of order list which we had in list 16. Okay, and that's what we get. Next, let's show you how to reverse a list. So we have list 18 with the numbers 1 through 10 in order, and if you want to show that as 10 through 1, then you can use this dot reverse. And don't forget the parens. So let's go ahead and select this code and run it, and we should get 10 or 1 through 10 backwards. And that's what we get. We're good to go. Now if you have an unsorted list and you want to sort it and then display it in reverse, you can do that as well. So here we have list 19 with 1 through 10 with the list out of order. Reference the list, use the dot to access the sort, and then inside the parens type out reverse equals true. So let's select this and run it, and we should get list 19 put in order and then sorted in reverse 10 through 1, or 1 through 10 backwards. Okay, that's what we get. We're good to go. Now, if you want to count the elements in a list, simply create your list, and then you just use the len. I think of that as length, and this will tell you the count of elements in your list. So here we have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. So when we select this and run it, now we should get 5, and we get 5. Moving on. Let's say you have a list of numbers and you want to find the maximum or the largest number in your data set. To do this, you simply use max. So let's select our list in our print to display, and this should output the largest element in this list, which is 1001. You can do the same thing to find the smallest or the minimum element in the list using the min here. Select it and run it, and we get the smallest or minimum number in that data set, -60. Next, let's show you how to change a string into a list. So here we have a string, which is the alphabet, and let's say you want to turn all of those into individual elements in a list. To do that, simply wrap that string in a list like this. And now let's select this and run it, and you should see that alphabet put into an array or a list as individual elements. And we have our string now as a list. In this next example, let's show you how to access an element of a list using the index, square brackets notation, and a slice. So we want to index a part of a list and then pull out or take a slice of that list. So here we have list 24 with several different types of exercises: walking, biking, swimming, rollerblading, and jogging. In this case, let's say we just want to pull out the word jog out of this entire list. So we can access the list at index 4. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to access jogging. And then we just want to take a slice of that word jogging, which is the index elements 0 up to, but not including 3. So that would be 0, 1, 2, 3. It's not going to include this second G. It's going to fall back onto the next G. So it should just now include jog. So when we select this and run it, now we should just get back jog. And we get back jog. Good. For our last example, let's just show you a simple example of a list comprehension. So here we have a list 25 with 5 elements, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And we're going to use a list comprehension to return all of those elements multiplied by 2. To do that, we create a variable x multiplied by 2, and then we use that variable x in a for loop referencing the list. So let's go ahead and select this and run it. And you can see now we get each element of the list multiplied by 2. So 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 20, 15 becomes 30, and so on. So that is it for our tutorial on the basics of Python lists. We'll be doing many more Python tutorials here in the near future. Join us for those, and we'll see you next time.